Frank Sills. It is a football Friday. It is a Veterans Day. Football Friday. Veterans Day weekend. You know, it's one of my favorite holidays, and it's one of my favorite times of the year because we get a chance to honor the military men and women who have served this country. And in today's landscape, it just doesn't mean in war. It now also means that when you're talking about first responders, 9/11, the wars that we're seeing around the world, protecting freedom, it's the greatest team on the planet, our military. I'm such a goober and such a honk for military history. I mean, I wrote these things down here. And I have like a bucket list of things that I've done when it comes to military and the aircraft carriers that I've been on. I've been on the USS Hornet. She's dry docked in Oakland. You can go there and see that legendary aircraft carrier that fought during World War II. I mean, I've taken my wife there. I mean, it's behind a fence. They're trying to restore it. And it's really one of the great aircraft carriers and one of the great pieces of history in our country. I've been on the USS Carl Vinson. It's one of the greatest aircraft carriers on the planet. I believe right now it's over near Israel right now. And that's one of the absolute gigantic battleships that we have and flat deck carriers we have. I love that. USS Midway, I've done numerous broadcasts. I've done numerous events. I've taken my daughter there. I introduced my daughter to Dan Gable there. The USS Nimitz I've been on. I've been on the Yorktown too. Obviously, the Yorktown was sunk. Then it was renamed with a new ship that was made in 16 and a half months. I've been on the Enterprise, and of course, I've been on the USS Arizona. So that's I just absolutely love the history. Yes, I've been to Gettysburg. I've been to Antietam. I've been to Vicksburg. I've been to all those places. Civil War. Yep, absolutely, man. I mean, hey, Bull Run, all that, man. I mean, I'm such a goober with that stuff. So if you happen to see a military person this weekend, do me a favor, salute them, because it's really one of the great things that our country has. You know what that is? There's no politics when you're in a foxhole. Just remember that. You know the two places I would have to say that you don't get politics? When you're sitting next to one another at Lincoln Financial, nobody gives a shit what political party you're affiliated with. They just care you're an Eagle fan. Or if you're in Buffalo or you're in Dallas or you're wherever. You don't sit there and go, excuse me, I'd like to sit here. Are you Republican or are you Democrat? You know? Hey, man, are you an Eagle fan? Like, get this. The only people you don't sit next to at Lincoln Financial are Cowboy fans. It's the only place that works. Same in a foxhole, right? Same in a foxhole, man. Okay? Hey, same, man. Absolutely, man. That's the greatest thing about sports. You don't give a shit about your politics. And you don't really care where the politics fall in here when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we really appreciate everybody coming aboard with us here. Oh, by the way, the game was terrible last night. But Jason Kelce was awesome. You see what I tweeted out at Dan Sileo show? I tweeted out late last night after watching Jason Kelce. My prediction is that right after he did it, I went, that guy's going to be the next John Madden. He's got timing. He's relatable. He's likable. There's so many cool things, man. Oh, you sailed on the Kitty Hawk. Dude, awesome, man. Way to go, dude. Awesome. Great, man. Way to go, man. That's awesome, Ray. But Jason Kelce was sensational last night. He was actually the star of the show because that game sucked last night. Carolina, I don't even remember who won. I couldn't take watching that game last night. But I love Jason Kelce. Got on the desk. He was in the booth. He had timing. I really enjoyed it, man. I mean, I think he's going to be somebody. He's going to be a star, either at hosting a local show in Philly or a national show, radio, or TV. He's going to be a star. If I'm Fox or if I'm CBS or NBC, I put that guy in the booth, man. He has a shot to be like Matt Millen, to be somebody like John Madden, or to be somebody like Bill Moss used to do when he was at Fox too. So I think he's got an opportunity, man. He's enjoyable to listen to. You know what he does too? He puts a little twist on everything. That's one of the things I loved about John Madden, is that John Madden is really the guy who got me my first gigantic radio job at KMBR in San Francisco. If it wasn't for John Madden, Bob Agnew would have never have heard of me. He would never have put me on the air. John Madden was the guy going, hey, you got to get this guy Sileo, man. He's the real deal. You got to get him. This guy's the real deal, man. I'm telling you, this guy's it. Tony Salvador, the general manager of the place, man. And I used to go to his house in Blackhawk, right there in Pleasanton, California. We lived over in the next town in Dublin. And I used to go over and talk to Coach Madden all the time. And he would go like this: the more you're close to yourself, and always talking with his hands like this, like he was Italian. Coach Madden would go, as long as you're close to yourself, always remember, that's relatable. And I'm sitting there eating, and his kids are there. I'm friends with his kids that follow me on Facebook. We stay in touch. Coach Madden was awesome. One of the most important people in my broadcasting career was Coach Madden. He got me that first job. Well, I started at KGO on, believe it or not, in news. I was doing sports on the number one station in San Francisco, KGO. And I was there with Jim Dunham. And if you guys remember, that's the guy who Zodiac called. And it was there with Rosie and him, and I used to do sports. Really cool. And then he goes, hey, you got to get this guy Sileo over here to KMBR. Really cool, man. Hey, Big Sills, even though Eagles have problems with giving up huge numbers to quarterbacks. We're going to get to all this. Still finding ways to win that stop us from winning the Super Bowl. Still finding ways win that will stop us from winning the Super Bowl. Potentially. And we're going to go all into this here in a minute, okay? We're going to go into this here in a minute here. John Madden was awesome. One of my favorite people. I think Kelce has a shot at being that kind of guy too. I really do. All right. Let's get into the topics. By the way, last chance to qualify for you to win yourself some gift certificates from our friends at Hooters. Tone's going to throw a code word out throughout the entire 4 hours. All you have to do is identify it, send us an email. You get your chance and opportunity to win yourself some merchandise and potentially a gift certificate from our friends who are celebrating their 40th anniversary, our friends at Hooters. You'll see it, dansilioshow@gmail.com. Send us your information. You will have a chance to win yourself those gift certificates. And then on a football Monday, you might hear your name called. So we appreciate that very much. All right, let's throw this out there. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come at you here with the positives. What I want to see coming out in the second half of the season with the Eagles. But first, do the Eagles have to go 4-1 to win home field advantage? Do they have to go 4-1, in your opinion, to win home field advantage in the NFC? Do they have to go 4-1? Detroit does not have as tough a schedule. Just so you know, and I know some of you are looking at San Francisco with 3 losses. Let me show you something that's pretty interesting here. Do you know currently There are 5 teams that in the last 15 games have gone 12-3. Do you know who they are? You guys keep throwing those numbers up, so I thought I'd throw some numbers at you. Here are the 5 teams in the regular season that have gone 12-3 over the last 15. The Chiefs, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Jags, and the Bengals. 5 teams in the last 15 ball games are 12-3. That's incredible from the Jaguars. You know, when I was a kid growing up, if you told me the Jaguars and the Bengals were some of your better football teams and teams like the Dolphins and the Raiders were not, I would tell you you were nuts. Jags and Bengals? Jags and Bengals are 12-3 over the last 15 games? That's pretty remarkable. Doug Peterson has done a magnificent job coaching that team, man. Get this. The Jags and the Bengals in the last 15 games have outplayed the Dallas Cowboys. They've outplayed the Cowboys. Hey, and by the way, for the record, the Eagles beat the Jags. One of those losses. Well, no, they were early in the year, so that's probably not the last 15. But in the last 2 years, you beat that team. The Jaguars, from probably the middle of last year, have gotten red hot. I mean, they are hot. Doug NTN looks like a guy. They got 2 ball hawks on that side of the football on defense. You know, Trevor Lawrence is starting to look like a top 10 quarterback now. To think about where he can. Look what Doug Peterson has done to that quarterback. I mean, he's changed and turned that guy's career around. Look, it was early on, but Urban Meyer was not helping that kid. Get this. Doesn't it show you? One thing that does show you, doesn't it? You get the wrong head football coach, he could destroy a career. I'll give you a great example of that. Jeff Fisher destroying Vince Young. You get the wrong guy, he could destroy a career. I think Jeff Fisher did more to destroy Vince Young's career than any person or anything he ever did in his career. I think that guy destroyed Vince Young's career. Vince was a rookie of the year. He got off to a great start. He was like 31-16 or something. Then that whole thing went to shit because he couldn't. Look at what he did with the Jared Goff when he was with the Rams. Okay? I mean, you get a bad coach, it could be absolutely career killing. Jags are winning, man. That's some good football here. Do I think they have to go? Do I think they have to go 4-1? I think you can get away with it probably with 3-2. Okay? If they go 3-2, because that's only 3 losses that you'll have on the season. And if you go 14-3, you would have had a better year than you did a year ago with lesser talent. That's a credit to the quarterback. There's only one player that you credit with that. You credit the quarterback. Okay? Because the defense, and we're going to get into this here in a minute. And we're going to do this. What I want to see, and the guys that I think have had a really good first half, and things I want to see pick up in the second half. We're going to do that. And I'm going to show you what one of the guys said here just a couple minutes ago. We're also going to look at week 10. We're also going to look at some of the deficiencies that we're looking at on the team right now. I want to ask you guys this. I want to show you this here. Let's do this. The quarterbacks in percentage completion against your defense in the first half of the season. Mac Jones was 64.8. Kirk Cousins was 70.5. Baker Mayfield, 60%. Sam Howell in 2 games, 73% completion percentage against your secondary. Matthew Stafford did a nice job on him, held him under 60%, 56.8. Zach Wilson's terrible, 57.6. Tua was 71.9. And Dak was 65.9. Rounds out to about 66.6% completion percentage. Guys on that list there, Tua, Dak. I do think Sam Howell's coming around. Those aren't any of the guys that you're going to be coming up playing here in the next couple weeks here. So 66.6. So just about 7 passes out of every 10 are being completed against you. See, this is what we give you here on our show. Okay? And I got these numbers out of NFL.com. Okay? Okay. And Tone says that's about league average. Okay. I can tell you this ain't average. NFL.com. Anybody can Google it and look at it. The Eagles are 31st in touchdowns allowed in their secondary. They are 31st in completions with 241. They are last in the amount of first downs surrendered. They are 31st in total passing yards. And your secondary had a completely brutal first half. If you look at those numbers. Your pass defense, the only way this is going to get better, it's not going to be Rick's. It's not going to be anything. It's going to be the health. You know what? I hear people say this all the time, that the guy you can't afford to lose the most is Lane Johnson. I don't think you can afford to lose Hassan Reddick. He may be the most important person down this stretch run of any football player on your team. Because if you ain't getting home, you're getting murdered. Teams are average. Teams are basically around league average, but your offensive numbers that you surrender in the pass game are horrific. And if Reddick is not Reddick in the second half, not a chance. How about this? Not a chance. Every game will be lesser on margin of error. NFL.com. Look at all these numbers. 32nd first downs allowed. 31st in total passing yards. You're at the bottom of almost every single offensive statistic that teams throw at your secondary in the first half of the season. Is that Super Bowl football? No, but your front seven is. And the most important thing you do, you know what the most important thing you do is? You stop the run. I would much rather have a team that has not quite these horrific numbers. But if I'm the number, I don't know if I've ever seen a team that's one of the worst pass defenses in the league. I mean, awful. Almost across the board. And so dominant against the run. But you know what that also comes down to? Rushing attempts. Why would I run the ball against you when I can hang in games with you throwing the ball? So was that number jaded a little bit? I don't know. We'll find out in the second half how good they are against the run. Why would I bang my head against a wall when I know my best options are throwing the football against you? Why would I do that? If I know I could play pitch and catch with my guys, why in the world would I run? I'm going to throw it all day long against the secondary. Like, this is terrible. And now you're going to be playing Dak again. You're going to be playing Allen. You're going to be playing, hey, whatever you think of Josh Allen, he puts up a ton of yards and he puts up a ton of touchdowns. Does he turn the? Yes, he does. So does Jalen. Well, to be fair to Jalen, he slowed that pace down massively, I think, over the last month. I do not believe Jalen Hurts is going to have 18 turnovers passing. I do not think he's going to have 18 interceptions. I think he'll hang around 13, somewhere in there. But I do not believe he's going to have 18 INTs. I don't see that guy putting that kind of number up. Do I think that Josh Allen could? I do. Okay. Do you need more blitzing? Probably. Okay. But how do you think those numbers translate? And by the way, this is not statistics. This is trends. So you take the entire 9-game body of work. You're one of the worst pass defenses, if not the worst pass defense in the NFL. The Bears are only really the worst. If you look at the numbers across the line, the Bears have the worst pass defense. The Eagles are second. They're the second worst. It's not getting better. Okay? You don't have anybody on that roster to make your football team better in the secondary. So you got to do it schematically. And you got to come up with ways to be creative to slow teams down. Now, I will say this on the side of the Eagles that has been really great. Your points allowed helps you massively. Because teams are killing you from 20 to 20. They're not really killing you in the red zone. That's so vital. Look, you may not be the greatest football team on the planet when it comes to red zone, but you know what you are? You're pretty good on that other side of the football by not allowing teams to kill you in points scored. That's a big deal. That's a big deal that they haven't. It's you know what it falls under? Bend but don't break stuff. That's okay. As long as your offense continues to trend up. And I think the offense, except for the run game, I mean, I'm going to sit here and bang on that thing over and over again. But what you're seeing is it is trending up. Because you know what you're seeing? You're seeing this. The run game is still kind of, trending down a little bit. But what's trending up is the lack of turnovers. And that means your offense is getting better, in my opinion. Dude, anytime you don't make the shitty play, your offense is getting better. Whether your run game is not where it needs to be, as long as you're not turning the ball over and you're scoring 28 points a game and you're only giving up 20, you're hanging right there, man. Jason Kelce said it last night. Do we have deficiencies? We absolutely do. And I'm going to make a point to you before we move on here on what I want to see also. You know what? I think this keeps you more engaged. Let me expand on that. Last year you guys were 8-1, right? And you guys just were killing teams. Sometimes I think you look up and I'm not saying you take your foot off the gas pedal, but you know what it does too, knowing that you have some deficiencies on your team? I think it keeps you more focused. That you can't make mistakes. I think the focus level on the team this year is higher than it was a year ago because you don't have that margin of error like you did a year ago. I think that keeps you more focused at the task at hand. Hey, we're not running the ball as well. Can't turn the ball over. It's a week-to-week battle that you face sometimes. When you're a good football team, how about this? When you're a team like the Lakers, where with Kobe and Shaq, you think they gave a shit about the regular season? Or do you think they kind of just wanted to get through it, get to the postseason, win their championships, and then go home? You're kind of not engaged. You put the sense of urgency. See, here is what I think. I think that's a positive. I think that's a positive. Yeah, Eagle goes, we got 30 sacks this year. Hey, you got 30 sacks? You're damn lucky you got 30 sacks because your defensive secondary is god-awful. Okay, as a unit, it's god-awful. And the trends say you're awful. Don't sugarcoat it. We got 30 sacks. You're lucky. Your front four is saving you. And the stabilization of the linebackers have saved you. Okay? I think you got to bring more pressure in the second half to help that secondary out. You're going to have to do this schematically against Kansas City. Andy Reid is going to go for 550 yards on you if you don't give that team different looks than what you did the last 2 games you played them. You're not slowing Mahomes down. He could throw to guys from Missouri, and he's going to complete passes because that's kind of what you're doing here. Got to blitz. Got to blitz. I wouldn't mind even bringing Nakobe Dean when he's healthy. When he's off IR, bring him in. See if he can blitz. Get the kid Nolan Smith involved. Guy runs a 4-3, 4-4. Blitz his ass. Run up the field, kid. You don't have to cover anybody. Hit somebody. Okay? Sacks are overrated? Who said that? Who said sacks are overrated? I wasn't talking about your sacks. I said your sacks are keeping you alive. And by the way, how many sacks have you had in the Washington games? 5? That guy threw for 700 yards on you. I mean, Sam Howell threw for 700 yards. That's not Josh. That's not Patrick Mahomes. Okay? It's a different animal here is what we're talking about. Okay? Like 66.6 league average. Those other numbers aren't. You're below water here. Here's what I want to see in the second half. I'm going to tell you what I really liked in the first half here, too, as we go into this week 10 of the NFL season. My favorite things that I've seen so far in the first half of the season with your Eagles, and I'm going to start with the positives here. I'd love to play with Jalen Carter more than anything I've seen so far this year. Easy to go to somebody that, sees all the offensive numbers. And I'm biased probably because the guy's playing defensive tackle. I think he's been the biggest impact player that you have had on that team. You take Jalen Carter off that defense, you probably got 3 losses. He is just a force. As a matter of fact, I don't know why he's not considered more in the conversation of not only just the rookie of the year defensively, why isn't he in the conversation for Hassan Reddick's not your best defensive player. He is. Say it. Jalen Carter's your best defensive football player. He's your best. He's impacted. What's the one thing different this year from last year? Get this, you lost your top 5 tacklers. And you're number 1 against the run? Should we sign Sue? No. I think your tackles are playing outstanding, including Fletcher. But as a matter of fact, I'll get into it a little bit later. I don't have a problem having Fletcher Cox come back next year. I want him back. I think he's had a great first half for what they're asking him to do. He's been a little nicked up, but I love what he's done. Actually, since last year, midseason, to where he is right now, he's played great ball for you. Is he Fletcher Cox 17? No. But is he Fletcher Cox in a rotation that could help your team win ball games? Absolutely. That guy's thrown more people around this year, okay, than what you think. He's a really good football player, man. Dude, Jalen Carter has been the greatest thing that I've seen this. To me, of all the players on your football team, I've enjoyed watching him play the most. Quickness, feet, hands, get to the quarterback, bull rushing. That's why I'd like to see Desai move him around a little more. He is such a great-looking player. What a future ahead of him. He keeps everything focused. He could potentially be your best defensive tackle you've ever had in franchise history, and that includes JB. I mean, he is goodness night. How about this? Sills, is he the best player in the draft that we just had in April? I'm going to say Stroud because it's the most important position. That if you redrafted him, I would go Stroud and then Carter 1 and 2. Then I would put Witherspoon 3, Gonzalez 4 in that kind of category. I think Bijan is drafted right. I just don't think Atlanta's using him right. But Carter would be the second player taken in the draft, not the first, but he'd be the second. And I don't think it'd be close. Bryce Young's not good enough yet to be the first pick overall. He's got a long way to go. That organization's got a long way to go. And I don't believe in small dudes like that at that position. I think he's a great player. Too bad he's too small. He's in the Kobe Dean of quarterbacks. He's not going to make it. He's just not physical enough to withstand the hits. That kid Stroud, man, he is breaking down all kinds of barriers when it comes to the Ohio State quarterback. So you have to go with him number 1 overall. Okay. Christian Gonzalez, yeah, man, he was really good up in New England before he got hurt. He's probably up there too. I would say that he's up in that conversation. But the kid Witherspoon over in Seattle, you're going to get a good look at him. Remember, I told you he was my favorite player in the draft. I love the kid McCullough, or the guy from Washington that you guys all hated, that I thought that the Eagles should take the corner. Guy's sensational. He's a ball hawk. He knocks people out. Told you he would have been a great fit for you. But again, not a problem with now because Jordan Davis is now playing really well. So that's all worked out for both parties, but he was really a great looking player, and we're going to get a chance to see him coming out of the bye. My second favorite thing that I've seen in the first half has been the play of AJ. The fact that this guy, the yards that he catches after the catch, and how he's averaging 15 yards of play. I mean, think about it. You go to him 4 times, you're already in enemy territory. That's how great he is. And he drags people. He's better than Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's faster. And get this, you know what fast usually means? It's more flashier. A.J. Brown's not a flashy player. A.J. Brown's a dominant player like T.O. Like Randy Moss is a flashy player like Tyreek Hill. These guys are great players. Not dismissing or dissing any of those guys. But to me, T.O., Michael Irvin, A.J. Brown, those guys that want to run you over and look to contact and are not afraid to block in the run game, those are guys I love. Physical presence, man. You're not going to take the football away from A.J. Brown. That's not going to be any of that. And to me, it's not so much his numbers that I'm impressed with. I love the way that when he catches the football in space, you can't get him down with one guy. I mean, by the way, he's better than Debo. He's better than DK Metcalf. Is he better than Justin Jefferson? Probably not. But I'll tell you what you do now do. You now forget the loss of Justin Jefferson in the draft because of Jalen Reagor comment, and the Jalen Reagor draft has been covered by a 25-year-old superstar. See, I forgive Howie on Jalen Reagor now. That's old news because you know why? You covered him with your mistake. You made a mistake, and you made a better move. What would you rather have? The better move or still live in the past with the mistake? He covered his mistake with a better move. Like, get this. Justin Jefferson, you lose him? Okay, no question. So you draft Reagor. Well, you covered the Reagor mistake, and you closed the gap on Jefferson with AJ. You're in a conversation with one of the better wideouts in the entire National Football League. Don't you think you covered that? That's what free agency is there for, to cover mistakes that you make in the draft. You make a mistake in the draft. With Derek Barnett, you get Hassan Reddick. That closes that gap, and you kind of look at that and go, okay, Well, he knew he made a mistake. That's what you love about Roseman. He acknowledges his mistake with a great move. Damn, I can't get corners. Let me go buy some corners. Okay? Something Dallas won't do. They won't admit their mistakes because they fall in love with their guys. And they'll hang with their guys. And they'll hang with the Jalen Smiths. And you're like, I think Jalen Smith just signed with New Orleans or somebody. I think he's on his like 8th team or something now. And they gave that guy a contract extension because Jerry loved him. I mean, he threw money into a trash can and lit it on fire. You got better value at lighting the trash can on fire. Okay? Jason Kelce's play has been exceptional. In my 3 years covering your football team, I think he's playing better football right now than he did in 21. He's really good. The way he gets up on the second and third levels, centers don't do that. Slipping and scooping. He's the quarterback, the tush push. How about this? He'll go down in NFL history as one of the creators of the tush push or brotherly shove. That was one of the greatest football plays of all time. When he leaves, you won't have that play anymore. Okay? When he leaves, that play's gone. You're not just going to put another center in there and run that play. You're not. Understand that. It's two dudes that make that play work. Kelce and Hurts. Okay? Do I think Juergens is as quick as Kelce? No. I do not. Okay? I do not. That play ends when his career ends. Okay? Remember that. I told you that. You will never see that play again. They'll run it, but they're not to the success. That's a personnel play. Because everyone else tries running it, and they can't. Well, there's only two things that are the common denominator. It's not just a Philly thing. It's Kelce and Hurts that make that play work. Jordan Mailata is the greatest athlete on your team. I can't believe every single time that and when you're critical of him and you see him get beat sometimes and you watch where he's come from in the last 5 years or 4 years that he's played ball. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What an athlete. I mean, he is the best. You could probably run him at tight end. That's how great an athlete he is. You could probably put him in the backfield and hand him the ball like he did when he played rugby. And he could be your power back if you ever really thought about it. He ran that way when he was in the rugby and when he was playing rugby at a high level. You could actually hand him the ball and he would be a damn good power back there in your red zone. You couldn't stop him. Can you imagine him running behind that line too? And you run him up the middle like that? You couldn't stop his ass. What a football player he is, man. And he's getting better and better and better. I would say this to you, that Jordan Mailata is he's enjoyable to watch. I'd put him probably in the top 5 offensive tackles left in the National Football League. Jeff Stoutland has done a remarkable job with him. The evolution of Hurts continues. For some style of football that I don't really like, he makes you like him. Jalen Hurts makes you root for him. Never talks about himself. He never singles himself out in any way whatsoever. He's embarrassed about a salary. If this is how I feel about him. He never puts himself above anybody or anything on the team. He's always there to, like that conversation that A.J. Brown and Hurts had on the sidelines. If that was T.O. and McNabb, you guys witnessed it. It was a fiasco. Those two guys handled it poorly. How did Jalen handle that? Like a professional. Somebody had to be professional. AJ's a hothead. It's okay. I'm not ripping him in any way. I am not ripping him. I'm saying that I think Jalen handled that. And hey, how do you think Donovan McNabb would have handled that confrontation on the sideline? Just for context here. How do you think McNabb would have handled AJ Brown on the sideline? You think that could unravel the team there? How do you think McNabb would have handled that? Curious. Just won't hang there for long. But how would McNabb have handled that? Okay? How would he have handled that conversation with AJ? When AJ came over to him, there was like a back and forth there. You already saw how McNabb would have handled it. He came at AJ for whatever. Right. Not well. McNabb would have tried to hit him in the head with a junky soup can. That hurts. That's right, because McNabb's an insecure human. Jalen, you know what? That's really great, Ray. You know the thing that's probably the greatest asset in Hurts' game is that he loves who he is. And he's comfortable with who he is. You know how many football players? Shit. I still struggle with that. That sometimes in your life you're not comfortable with who you are because you're insecure. We all have got insecurities. It takes a superstar guy to keep that calmness about yourself when adversity hits. Dude, anybody could be a star when you're 8-1. Give me a little adversity when you get your job taken from you and show me who you are. That's why I learned one lesson too. You get fired from places, always remember the next guy's looking to see how you handle adversity. And you handle yourself with pride and dignity, and you don't go on social media talking shit to people or going into the media, the next employer is going to be more willing to hire you because you've handled yourself like a professional. People want professionals. They don't want people that are going to go blowing up on them, telling secrets of what happened, or this guy was an asshole, or that guy's this and that. They don't want to hear it because one day you'll be fired by them too. Okay? Unfortunately, it's taken me 30 years to learn that. Jalen knows that in his 20s. Kudos to him. Here's something else I like. I like this guy, Sean Desai. Do I think he still has to prove some things in the second half, especially in this 5-game stretch? I do. But so far, how about this? The boat hasn't gone down. I gave you all these numbers. Get this. And I'm going to go to Tone and all your, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to your guy's favorite number. Okay? I'm going to go to your favorite number. 31st in touchdowns allowed in the secondary. 241 completions, 31st. Number one, or the worst team in the league in giving up first downs, 129. 31st in total passing yards surrendered. And you're 8-1. Coordinator's got to get some love there for that. He's got to get some love for that. Yeah, Sills, all this is shit. We're 8-1. Okay. I think Desai moving people around, Gannon would never move people around. Okay? He would never experiment. I think Desai has more confidence in himself. And remember something, he's got a tougher task because he's coaching Jonathan Gannon's system, which he probably hates. But he's working within the sandbox and trying to redefine it with lesser players in the secondary. He's got a ton of injuries in the secondary, and he's working around all these obstacles. I think of all the coordinators and maybe all the coaches outside of Stoutland, I think Rocker's done a great job with that front four. I think Michael Clay's had a great year so far. Michael Clay, if there's an award for the most improved position coach, it's Michael Clay. 2 years, I seen that guy. Those special teams were terrible. And you know why? Now I know why. Because the roster is only set up in a certain way for the 22. Because after that, they believe in economics on the Eagles. Rightfully so, but it affects your special teams. You don't have a very expensive special teams. You don't play frontline guys on your special teams. There's not a lot of your first or second round guys. Well, now there's going to be with N'Kobe's going to have to do some stuff there. I'm not even sure they'll put him there. But Michael Clay, if you were going to give an award, okay, for the most improved coach, it's him. All right? So he's done a nice job this year. Guy who doesn't get enough love is Aaron Moorhead, the Eagles wide receiver coach. The one of the only holdovers from Doug Peterson's staff. Isn't it crazy how good that guy's done too? And Chip Kelly's other guy is on that staff. That shows you something also, that they do something like the Glazers do. The Glazers were notorious for this. You've seen a great assistant coach. You know what you do? You try to lock that guy up and keep him in your building as long as you can. I would not be surprised at the end of this year if Jeff Stoutland gets a contract extension and they make him the highest paid O-line coach in the league. Keep him in the building. It doesn't seem to me that he's aspiring to be a head football coach like Joe Bugle wanted to be one day. It wouldn't shock me to keep him in that building like they kept Jim Johnson, that they make sure that they keep that guy tied up for a long time. And what they do is they also put no negotiations when it comes to contract talks, that you can go out and talk to anybody else without compensation. They used to do that in Tampa when they had Tomlin and all them guys down there, Lovie Smith. In fairness, Sills, KC was last in pass defense last year. Okay, all right. Hey, by the way, LJ, I'm going to do something that I rip you on. You're 8-1. You're 8-1. Okay? Hey, LJ goes like this, but that's a great point. KC was last in pass defense last year. They also had a guy throw for 5,400 yards and 45 touchdowns. And Andy Reid. And they beat the team with the number one pass defense in the league. This is going to come down to the quarterback. And this is why I put the percentages out there. Okay? Everybody completes passes against you guys. Your margin of error this year. My point was, and maybe LJ, I should make it even clearer. My point this year is that your margin of error is not here. You can't make mistakes like you could. You could drop the ball a couple times in games last year and not worry about it. This year, you give up a touchdown, a guy goes to the right player, you're not recovering from that because you can't. Here's Howie at the negotiation table with Stoutland. Stoutland, name your price. Okay, I'll double it. Bring trucks outside. I would do the same thing. Remember what Jimmy Johnson said right here on this program? The only one coach in the building that I give a shit about, really, the guy that you have to have, is the best O-line coach. He goes, I'll get rid of a D-line coach at any time. You have to have the best D-line coach on the planet. Okay? You do. Oh, but know this too. What LJ said about they were last in pass defense. That's because they started rookies all last year, and they started guys that they drafted. Now they have a top 5 defense. So they were getting better as they got to the Super Bowl, and that's how they beat you. It's one thing to look at trends and say they were last year. Now they're a top 5 defense. And they're winning games because of defense this year. Offense is really okay still. He's on pace for about 4,700 yards. All right? But their defense is good. You got 3 guys on that team that is going to have near 10 sacks. Okay? They were getting better, and better. And do you know when it peaked? When they hit the Super Bowl. Okay? They peaked. They were going this way the whole time. You're not. But hey, you know what, though? I will say this to LJ's point. Do you know what is getting better, though? Your pass rush. You have to up the volume of pressure to help them. That is totally why that secondary is struggling, especially at the corner position. And here's the 2 things that have happened this year. Injuries. It's not the coordinator. Lower volume of hits on the quarterback. And here's the bigger one. Lack of turnovers. You don't have the turnovers you had a year ago. You don't have the volume of pressure. And you got injuries. Are these numbers shocking? When you put that in context, no. Right? You put that all in context. No. That's to be expected. You know, we were talking at the beginning of the year that this defense, remember what we said about the 8-game mark, 9-game mark, that this defense will start turning around? It can't. You don't have the turnovers, you have injuries, and the higher volume of pressures that you had a year ago compared to this year are down. Okay? And which means this. We said this yesterday as well. You have a higher volume of developing pass routes. What does that mean? The pass routes are deeper on you. That's why you're giving up. You're second worst in the league in passing yards. Why is that? It's not that they're catching 25 plus plays against you. Everything that I told you yesterday, I went and looked at the numbers. They're doing the pitch and catch on you too. Because you know how you know that? Okay? You're still only surrendering 20 points a game. You're going to win games hanging in there with that. But the reason you're giving up a lot of passing yards is because it's higher volume of play development downfield. You're not getting home. If you're not getting home, you don't. Sam Howell threw for 700 yards on you in 2 games. Had a 73% completion. Do you know Sam Howell this year, of all the quarterbacks you've played so far, has the highest completion percentage of any guy you've played against? Sam Howell. 73.1. Sam Howell. With a guy who was on pace to be sacked 90 times. You're not getting home. You didn't get home in those games. Higher development of passing yards because of the routes. Bieniemy knowing how to scheme you because he did it. You know, Eric Bieniemy has schemed you 3 games in a row. He's 2-1 against you. And the other 2 in Washington, actually, he's 2-2. And all 4 games have been right down to the wire. He knows what he's doing when it comes to the Eagles. Okay? William said, should we blitz more? See, that comes down, William, to situationally. 3rd and long. Dude, blitz Smith. Okay? Sam Howell averaged 51.5 passes a game against us. You're not getting home. Thank you. You're not getting home. Okay? You're not getting home. I actually like Sean Desai. Now, here's the bad. Play at Bradbury. I think he's been exposed. I think the enemy exposed him. And I think Belichick exposed him. I think that all the coordinators, you notice isn't it something that you've played against all these great defensive coordinators in the first half of the season? Bradbury, I think they figured him out, and their offensive coordinator and them have gone back and said, this guy here, okay, you can turn him around. He's not very fast, and their safeties are not help. The safety play has affected him more than Slay. Slay's a better player because he's not as affected. But the safety play has affected him more and the injuries more than Darius Slay. Okay? Last year when you got really good safety play, he was a good player, played center field. No one got over the top on him, kept everything underneath. And these higher development plays and these bigger routes that are being run at him, that's the key to this. See, last year you were having an epic year when it came to 70 sacks and all the pressures. What does that mean? You're talking about maybe 5 or 6 yards shorter in the pass route. This year, it's 7 to 8 yards more in the pass route, and they're deeper pass routes. He's not getting the help over the top, and it's affecting him. Okay? It's affecting his play. He's got to pick it up. The safety position is in chaos. Okay? And Kevin Byard's got to stabilize it. You know, Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow have stabilized it. And they've stabilized the linebacker position. I want to make a point to you on something here also. On TJ Edwards. I know he plays on the shitty Bears. I want to show you something here. In the last 3 years, TJ Edwards playing in the National Football League. He has 401 tackles right now. Halfway through the third year. He's on pace right now for 500 tackles in 3 years. In 27 games, the last 27 games he's played, he has 271 tackles. This guy averages 10 tackles a ball game. And last year, he had 159. He's at the halfway point right now. Guess what? He's trending for 224 tackles this year. Now, obviously, they're on the field more. Still, when you say that to me, he's still productive. And how I know that this guy here is a great ball player is that he did it in Philly. He's doing it in Chicago. Whether he's on the number one defense or the worst defense, he's productive. He can't help it they don't have pass rushers. He can't help it they don't have corners. He can't help it they're the worst pass defense in the NFL. All he can do is worry about what he's doing. This guy's going to have 500 tackles in 3 years of football. You think that's a loss for $7 million? And what really is troubling about you just letting him walk out the door, it went 130, 159. Are you trying to tell me this year? Can you imagine if you had TJ Edwards behind Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, how much better your pass defense would be on tight ends? Not that he's a great cover guy, but how much stouter your run defense would be? It would be historic. Okay? Someone goes like this, TJ wanted to go home. Well, then pay him more. Hey, dude, Deshaun Watson didn't want to play in Cleveland until you gave him a king's ransom. And then you held him ransom. Eagles LB would have more tackles if the D-line sucked. Yeah, okay. He had 160 tackles last year. It's not like this guy's not producing everywhere he goes now. I would say this to you. You want to hear something else? Is TJ Edwards Roquan Smith, or is he any of those other guys? I don't know if he's those guys, but I'll tell you what, when it comes to stopping the run, in my opinion, as a linebacker that plays and fits gaps and plays the run and is productive, Edwards is a good ball player, man. Is he elite? Probably not. But is he a good football player? Is he somebody you want in your middle of your football team? Yeah. Yeah. 500 tackles he's going to have in 3 years of ball. Another thing to keep in mind, the Eagles defense is ranked 20th in opponent completion percentage and 66th, 15th in pass yards attempt, giving up 6-4. I saw that. It tells me that they will give up yards, but you got to drive the whole. That's what I said, Tone. They're putting all this up 20-20. And what Desai has done and what they're doing a good job of is red zone defense, keeping them out of the end zone. Okay? That's the thing that's saving them, is the fact that teams are not putting it in the end zone on them. It's the only thing saving that defense. And the run defense. Got to get home more. Devontae Smith's got to pick it up. Okay? What did I write down? Nico Collins. Who were the wide receivers that were having better years than him? Now, look, again, the guy on the other side is having a historic year. So you got to take that into consideration as well. But, I mean, you know, he looks – I mean, I'm going to give you some numbers of some guys here that are, ahead of him. I think in 5 games, Justin Jefferson – not that he's Justin Jefferson. I'm not doing that, but he's played in 9 games. Jefferson has more catches and more yards, or I think more yards than him in 5 ball games. Now, he's a focal point in a number one, and the number one guy in Philadelphia. So it's almost not fair, but all of you guys kept telling me 1A, 1B. Well, he's totally become B this year, and rightfully so. Not a rip, but we'd like to see, and I'm going to make a point here why that this seems kind of odd here, because I'm going to get to another guy here. Let me see. What did I write down here? That there were some other guys here. Nico Collins, Adam Thielen, and Michael Pittman all have better numbers. Now, those guys are number ones. So there's no longer the debate that you have 2 ones. You don't. You have a guy who's potentially going to be your number one in 5 years from now. Because right now, AJ is clearly the number one guy. Okay? Remember, those other guys are the focal guys. They're number ones. And AJ has been put in the role at number 2. And they have solidified that he is clearly the second option. He's no longer the first option on that team. Where a year ago, there was kind of, 1 week it was here. Didn't he have more catches last year than A.J. Brown? That won't happen this year. Did he have more catches last year than A.J. Brown? Okay, he had more catches last year. That number will not be near that this year. Now, fairness, A.J. has been put in the first role. But I wouldn't look at and say this. You just got to pick it up a little more. Maybe that's coordinator. Okay. Maybe that's coordinator. And I'm going to get to that point here. Olamide Zaccheaus. How many people know how many yards he has after 9 games? Your third wide receiver on the field. Does anyone know how many yards he has? Dumb take? Well, let's find this take out. Does anyone know how many yards he has? 200. How many yards does Olamide Zaccheaus have? In 9 games. Your number 3 wide receiver. Look at what some of the people are thinking. 200, 170, 87. You got a guy in a football field. What's he doing? Why do you have him on the field? Just to cover a position because you have to have 11? He's got 87 yards. It's the most non-productive position in the entire offense. You get nothing out of 3. Shit, Quez Watkins was more productive. Depth? It's not depth when you don't use them. 87 yards? How many people think less than, 8 yards? You think 8 yards a game out of your number 3 wideouts productive? 8 yards a game. I don't even know how many catches he has. How many catches does he have? He's got 87 at the halfway mark. Your number 3 wideout in your so-called pass-happy offense has under 90 yards. Not only are you not balancing your passing attack, you're not balancing your running attack. It's Hurts and AJ. That's it, baby. It's Hurts and AJ. And everyone else, Devontae's been put in a 2 role. Your 3 receiver is nowhere. Now, Swift has picked up that role. Okay? They've played 9 games, dude. Dirty. How does he get 10 yards a game when he's got 87? About that. It's about 10. Yeah, that's about. He's got 6 catches for 87 yards. That's your 3 guy? 6. I like the kid too. I think when they go to him, he makes plays. I like the way he blocks in the run game. I like the way I like the kid. I don't think he's a bad ball player. You're just not going to him. 6 catches. This is a starting position. This isn't a backup. This is a starting position on your offense. 87 yards, 6 catches, the halfway mark. So he's on pace right now to have less than 200 yards receiving and 12 catches this year. You would call that productive? Travis goes, I'm talking bullshit when I point out a fact he's got 6 catches for 87 yards. Those numbers are bullshit. We're halfway through the season here, dude. That's not one game. Who cares? Who cares? Okay. So you put all your eggs in one guy, and you're not really as productive as you are with the other guy. Shut down AJ, you're in trouble. Against Kansas City. Don't you think that's what they're looking at now? They're going to try to keep that guy under 100 because these other guys, Devontae, I think it's about preference with Hurts right now. And preference. The kid's playing great, AJ. You keep feeding the guy. I'm not saying you don't. But if you had a little more balance in your passing attack, wouldn't that open him up more? If these other numbers, now listen, I think this because of Goddard going down. How about this? Do you think that they establish Devontae Moore, Swift, or Olamide Zaccheaus to try to cover some of that without pissing AJ off because he's not getting his targets? Somehow in this Kansas City game, you're going to have to cover those. I'm not even talking about the run game here. I'm talking about you get nothing out of 3, 0. You get 0 production out of your 3 guy. All year long, you've got nothing out of that. Nothing. 2 touchdowns, I think. Okay. But theoretically, for 9 games, you've got nothing out of that. I think right now in this off week, I think they got to look, and especially against Kansas City, I think you got to do more intermediate. I think you're going to see a lot more Swift and maybe the 3 guy, wide receiver 3, because the guy that they're going to want to catch the ball is I want Devontae to catch the ball. I don't want AJ catching it. And I don't believe you're very physical as a running back core. Your old line's physical as hell. And one more time about that, because I hear people say this. Well, Miles Sanders was an average back. Okay. He didn't have average numbers last year. And you guys told me that anybody can run behind that O-line. Well, Swift can't. Gainwell has more receiving yards than Oz. Last year when Dallas got hurt, Smitty's production increased. It did. It did. Okay? It did. It did. And like I said yesterday, you're getting nothing out of 3. Last year's offense had 2,000 rushing yards between 2 dudes, Hurts and Miles, and 24 touchdowns. That's why the margin of error with the defensive secondary being the way it is, that's why you're seeing these closer games. Jason Kelce said it last night on the telecast. We have a lot of deficiencies on this team compared to what I think it keeps you more focused. I do. But those are the deficiencies in the first half of the season, whether you want to address it or not. And remember something about being 8-1, which is awesome. You always roll back to that. You're halfway home. You're halfway through the marathon. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And you're leading the marathon. That doesn't mean you win the race. Ask yourself that question last year. You didn't win the race. You stumbled at the finish. That's a fact. You stumbled at the finish. So we're halfway home here. The right guard position has not been addressed effectively enough, and I think it's affected the run game more than you think. Offensive lines are cohesiveness, togetherness. And Isaac Seumalo has been a factor in Pittsburgh. The numbers really don't dictate it, but the record does. They look a little bit more balanced. They're hanging around 90 yards rushing. The quarterback situation is atrocious, but he's done a nice job in Pittsburgh, and they're 5-3. Isaac Seumalo has been a good addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, where 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, it was a train wreck. And when they moved off of Marquise Pouncey and they had to start getting new pieces in there, Seumalo's been a nice fit there. And he's been a loss in Philly. He's been felt. Okay? He has. And as my last one here, for coordinators, I would like to see Brian Johnson feeds Smith a little bit more, create some more passing routes for him. Now that Goddard's out, get him the ball a little more. Okay. How about some quick hit? Here's the thing you want to get with him. And here's what I would want with Devontae Smith. That guy's deadly in open space. I think he's more elusive than AJ. AJ's a power receiver. I want to see Devontae in more jet sweeps. I want to see him more in, you know what, almost I want to see him use like Debo. Not up the middle running the ball. I don't want to see him in there. But I'd like to see a little bit more creativity in getting him open. It's too bland for him. Out route, sideline route, seam. It's not real. Like, I mean, you know, if you're a D coordinator, you're not breaking your mind over the routes they run. These guys are so talented. It's very uncomplicated. It's not a complicated offense. I want to get him in more space. That's how I look at him. I want to see him in more space. Last year, Sanders' OU rushing yards was 22.5. He finished the game with minus. Hey, Chris, he had 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. You could slice that shit up any way you want. Two guys had 2,000 rushing yards and 24 touchdowns. You will not come near that this year. That is physical running the ball. Whatever you say. Those numbers all equated out to 2,000 yards between two men and 24 touchdowns. Okay? Your number one running back in the red zone is your quarterback. They didn't use the third wide receiver last year either. So you think 87 yards is productive? Okay. We're going to talk to our friend Tone. He'll be with us at the bottom of the hour. We'll take a look at week 10 of the National Football League as well. Slide Devontae into the slot. Julio Jones at 2. No, if I'm getting I'm not going that route there. All right, let's do this. Let's take a timeout. Don't forget our great friends at Hooters. Folks, please do me a favor. Make sure you get there, man. Absolutely sensational stuff. We really appreciate it. NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. And when you roll into any one of the locations, do me a favor. Tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect